Hello, everyone. This is Uncle Gamer, and it's time for a gaming espresso. I hope you're having a really good day today. We've got a lot of stuff we can cover this weekend, but you know what? This story popped up today. This is Friday. This story popped up today, and it demanded that I talk to you about it today. Now, normally we focus on topics that are very specific to PC gamers. But in this particular instance, we're going to take a topic that's more general because it's involving the internet. And this story hit, and I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. So if you haven't been following it, the Senate votes to kill FCC's broadband privacy rules. Now, before we dive into this, let's kick back a moment and understand some of the rules that are in trouble. Now, this is a very specific example, but there's some other rules that are in trouble as well. And the big all-encompassing term for this is called net neutrality. Now, let me explain to you, for those that don't understand, exactly what net neutrality means. It's actually very simple, even though it keeps getting complicated. Net neutrality means when I pay an ISP to let me use the internet, that's it. It's like paying the water department to let me use water. I can use it to water my lawn. I can use it to fill a bathtub, fill a pool, feed the dog, take a drink, flush a toilet, do whatever wash the car, do whatever I want to do with the water. And it doesn't change anything about using the water. The cost is the cost is the cost, and it's done. You use it and it's over. That's true net neutrality. That is what they believe we should be striving for. And I disagree and don't disagree. Now follow me as to why. I've worked both sides of the fence. I'm a consumer, but I've also worked in the ISP industry. And one of the things we need in the ISP industry is a way for ISPs to distinguish themselves. Something that makes them stand apart. If all ISPs offer all the same service, then how do you decide which one to buy? It becomes a price war, which is good for us. But in the end, there's really no difference. There's no way for the companies to help them stand out. And we want to still help them because if they're making money, in theory, they're going to offer us better services. Now, there's this whole issue of ISP monopolies in many rural areas. We're going to skip over that for right now. We're going to assume you have a choice of multiple ISPs in your area. If you do, God bless you. You are one of the luckiest people in the United States or on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. If you don't, bear with me so you can understand where I'm going with this. I completely agree that there should be no negative connotations with ISP choices. Now, what net neutrality is trying to stop is let's say you go to a cable television provider like Mediacom, my service. And I go to Mediacom. Well, Mediacom doesn't want me to watch Netflix. They don't want me to watch Hulu. They want me to watch their cable services. So, what Mediacom could do, and net neutrality seeks to stop this, is restrict the bandwidth that Netflix and Hulu have to their customers. Reduce the ability to send the data, slow it down a little bit, and possibly make the service a little less enjoyable for you, the consumer. This is bad. This shouldn't be allowed. And the way around this, under the current rules, if they were to decide to do this, I'm not saying they do. I'm saying they could. If they were to decide to do this, under the current rules, what they would do is go to Netflix, go to Hulu, and say, you give us a little piece of the pie. You give us a taste, just a little taste. You give us a taste of your take, and we won't restrict your bandwidth. Now, that's bad for consumers. That's bad for the other companies. That's just bad business. All right? I agree with you that that's bad business. This is where I agree with the net neutrality people. A negative connotation, anything that causes what I pay for to be reduced at my end is a bad thing for me as a consumer. Where I disagree is I don't think that a positive spin on the service is a bad thing. So let's say you got the same scenario. I pay for 100 megabits down and a terabyte of data. Okay, that's what I pay for. So Mediacom gives me everything I do on the internet is based on the 100 megabit down terabyte data. These are examples, simplified. Don't read anything into them. Everything works at that. That's net neutrality. Now, if Mediacom were to say to Netflix, you give us that little taste, and what we're going to do is your service gets priority on our service. So instead of the regular 100 meg down, maybe Netflix will now be able to, customers using Netflix, maybe the bandwidth jumps to like 125. And instead of the terabyte data cap, maybe the Netflix only uses half, a quarter, or none of the data cap that it would typically use. This is what I mean by a spin up. This to me isn't a bad thing. This makes sense in a business market. It makes sense in a business environment. I'm getting what I paid for automatically. But if Netflix can get a little extra money and give me an added value, that, in my opinion, is not a violation of net neutrality. This is where the net neutrality advocates, I believe, go too far. Allow the ISPs the option to increase what they offer with no charge to us is a good thing for consumers. So that's the big war, net neutrality. Now, I wanted to get that out of the way because while it doesn't directly affect that, I got to remember where to point on camera. While it doesn't directly affect that, does directly affect us and other ways, and it's going to fall under the same umbrella when this discussion gets serious. So what happened is the Senate voted to kill the FCC's broadband privacy rules. Now, these got implemented a few months ago, and basically what they said was this, that internet service providers were not allowed to track your browsing and then sell it unless you gave them permission to do so. It was an opt-in service. Now, opt-in to me is a good thing. Opt-in means we, as the consumers, have the choice. It defaults to us saying no, but gives us the option to say yes. That's a great way to do something. Okay, opt-in is a great way to do something. When I go to Walmart, I like the fact that I get the opt-in to buy something from Walmart. I don't walk in the store and immediately there's a $100 charge on my bill because I'm going to walk out the store with something no matter what. Opt-in is the proper way to do things with this. So a lot of people were happy about this. Here was the problem. It did this to ISPs, but it didn't do it to any services provided on the internet. Facebook is not required by law for an opt-in to track your data. Google is not required by law for an opt-in to track your data. These companies can track your data but at will, and nobody can say anything about it. Now, I think it's interesting. Well, this was to protect the ability to browse the internet. Really, Google Chrome is one of the most used browsers on the planet, and Google has the ability to set by default the ability to track what you do. That's not sounding like an opt-in to me. And ISPs, though, were being told that they couldn't do this. All right, you know what? I'm trying not to cry about this because it's so funny. It's not a great step, but it's a first step. It's a first step. And a lot of people are upset right now because the Senate is saying, no, you can't do that. Now, some senators have come out and said, and I can't find their quotes, that's interesting. Some senators have come out and said, supposedly, that they want a more aggressive form of protection. They want to include the other services. That's a good thing. But they say they got to get this out of the way first. I don't understand that, but that's neither here nor there. If they're going to do a more aggressive bill to do this, that's a good thing for those of us on the internet. But some other senators have explained why this bill is bad. Now, I'm going to pull this up for you. I want you to see this. Okay, now I've clipped out here just the section in this article that explains the problem. Okay, but critics of the rules say they are expensive. These rules are expensive to ISPs and subject them to tough privacy regulations not imposed on web-based companies like Google and Facebook. And as I've said, that's wrong. They should be imposed. The FCC's sister company, the Federal Trade Commission, can bring privacy complaints against web-based companies that aren't ISP, but the FTC doesn't create privacy regulations, instead typically taking action on a case-by-case basis. That's wrong. Okay, so basically what they're saying is, well, the Federal Trade Commission can handle this. No, it can't unless we sue. Okay, and then it's only at that moment that it can happen again. It's crap. Okay, the FCC rules are confusing and costly, making the internet an uneven playing field, according to Mitch McConnell. IPS privacy regulations are, it should be ISP, by the way. Privacy regulations are burdensome rules that hurt them more than help, added John Cornyn of Texas. Okay, well, respectfully, Senator McConnell and Senator McCornian are idiots. They don't understand what they're talking about, but they're going to talk about it. And the sad part is the people of Kentucky and Texas keep voting for them. They're idiots because of this. Okay, let's break this down, okay? It's a tough privacy regulation not imposed on web-based companies. Now, what they're saying there is it's unfair to ISPs. Why do ISPs have different rules than web-based companies? Well, first, web-based companies, you have more of a choice to use them. ISPs, as we discussed a little bit previously, and it may be another whole article for that, ISPs in most of the United States have very little competition. So you don't get a choice. There has to be different rules if you're going to allow artificial monopolies. If you're going to allow those monopolies with the ISPs, there's got to be different rules. There does have to be. Where with Google, if I don't want to use Google, I don't use Google. If I don't want to use Yahoo, if I don't want to use Bing, if I don't want to use Facebook, I can choose not to do it. I can't choose. Where I live in Southern Illinois, for broadband options, I have two. And I don't count satellite because anybody that's used satellite knows it sucks. I have two options for broadband in Southern Illinois. I have Mediacom, which is my optional choice for broadband, which allows me decent speeds. I get 200 down, 20 up. Not great, but adequate and decent speeds. Or I can get Frontier. Frontier, who, by the way, isn't Frontier. Frontier is backwoods 1880s internet that could be done with a cup and a string that allows 7 megabits per second down, potentially at the maximum, and about a megabit per second up, potentially at the maximum. That's not broadband. That's not even trading broadband. Come on, let's get serious, okay? That's ridiculous. That's kiddie broadband. That's made like Tonka toy. Mediacom's an actual car, and Frontier's a Tonka toy by comparison for broadband usage. So screw that. But the point is, I don't have a choice, or I've got a very limited choice. So there should be a different set of rules for ISPs than there are for web-based companies. Now, I don't disagree with the sentiment. We need to have web-based companies have these same privacy restrictions where you have to opt in to allow them to collect your data. But to compare the two is apples and cucumbers. And I think it's dumb that they've got a comparison. Okay. FCC rules are confusing and costly, making the internet an uneven playing field. So Mitch McConnell, let's start here. Confusing. Do not collect data. Can somebody explain to me what's confusing about that? ISPs, it's really simple. Don't collect data. What do you mean, don't collect data? You mean do, but some. No, do not. DONOT. Collect data. Period. Okay, but do you mean. No, do not. What are we talking to? 3-year-olds? Do not. Do not. There's no room for ambiguity or confusion here, Mitch. It's do not. Zero. Die. Zero. Do not. What is it? I guess because I guess Mitch, do not. No means no, for God's sake. Come on. Do not collect data. Too confusing. Okay, Mitch. Obviously, as I just said, you don't know what you're talking about. And costly. Yeah. Somebody explain this. I'm an old man. Maybe I don't get it. Maybe I don't understand. But I've been working in this industry quite a few years. And not doing something seldom increases the cost. Okay? If you're going to collect data, you have to have an algorithm to collect the data. You have to have a storage place to collect the data. You've got a methodology to collect the data. You got to have people periodically check the data. Blah, 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 blah. If you don't collect data, if you just say no and accept it, no means no to the data, you don't have to have none of that shit. In other words, it's easier, and easier tends to cost less money. So, again, Mitch, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. It's costly and makes the internet an uneven playing field. Uneven playing field. Really? In what way? If every ISP, and I've just acknowledged that ISPs really should have slightly different rules, if every ISP has to follow this rule, how's that an uneven playing field? Mitch is trying to associate ISPs with online services. Again, this proves Mitch doesn't know. To put it in a vernacular you might understand from Kentucky. He's out from Southern Illinois. I'm not going to pick on him because he's a country boy. But to put it in a vernacular you might understand, Mitch, you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to this. You don't understand. It's not an uneven playing field. It's fine. So, we go down to Mr. Connery from Texas, who says the ISP privacy regulations are a burdensome rule that hurt more than they help. Hurt who? Okay, we're back to burdensome rule. Burden on who? Doing nothing isn't a burden. Oh my God, do you know how many of us would like to have jobs that we did nothing? I would accept that burden gladly. Pay me for nothing. I will accept that burden. Oh, it's a load, but I will bear it for you. It's not burdensome to tell them, don't do it. It's not burdensome to do nothing. And to say it hurts more than, who does it hurt? The consumer who isn't having his every move tracked. I don't feel hurt by that. I don't feel hurt by that at all. The only person that hurt was ISPs making an extra revenue stream. Come on, they're locked in monopolies. They've got a guaranteed revenue stream practically in most places in the United States. Their revenue streams are solid. These companies make money. It doesn't hurt them to not be able to sell our data. It doesn't hurt them. If it was a primary source of income, maybe I could understand the phrase. It's not. So I look at this rule, and it pisses me off. This is why I had to do this video. It pisses me off as a gamer because I use the internet all the time. I use the internet all the time for everything I do. Everything I do practically is on the internet. Most gamers, and that's where most of us are. So is this rule going to hurt us? It could, but I'm not sure how much. If they took my web browsing data, I'm not sure I care. I'm not looking to be recruited by the Gamers Liberation Front to be involved in terrorism. Uh, I don't. I'm not a pedophile. I don't look at kiddie porn. Uh, I look at this and I get that. Yeah, it doesn't hurt us if they do this. Not drastically, but it does. My best friend points this out all the time. Every time you give a little bit, even though it doesn't seem like it hurts, they take more, they take more, they take more until it begins to hurt. And this is going to be the case here. They're going to say, hey, you know what? We can track your data this way and sell it. Okay. If it reduces my internet cost, I'm okay with that, but it won't. And we end up not being any better off than we were. And then they want more data, and then they want more data, and suddenly everything you do on the internet is directly and actively monitored, and the thought police become involved. This could get ugly quick. We need to stop this now. We need to stop this right now. I think we need to be writing senators and congressmen and saying, what the fuck? And we need to be doing more than saying, what the fuck? We need to be saying, instead of killing this, how about giving it some real teeth? Let's not only make it where ISPs cannot collect data, let's make it where Google and Facebook cannot collect data without an opt-in service. Okay? Where we have to give them permission to collect our data. Is this going to hurt them financially? Oh, yeah, it's going to trash them because they make most of their money off basically stealing your data. What you do every day, they make money off of. And you don't get a benefit from it. Well, Facebook will argue, but you get Facebook. If you use Facebook, you know what? For as much money as I've made you, I expect some updates that are actually useful. Same with Google, same with YouTube, same with all of them. But we don't. We get the updates they choose to give us every now and then trickled out while they pocket a lot of money. But that's another story. If we're going to have a rule like this, let's have a rule like this that has teeth, and let's have it actually do something that's meaningful and across the board. If we're not going to have a rule like this, then that's okay too. My advice is go out. Opera is the browser of choice I use for this. Opera actually has a built-in VPN. Now, what this does is this limits the ability of your ISP to track what you're doing with the browser. Boy, I'll be using Opera a lot if this bill passes, folks. I've made the switch. Or you could pay for a VPN service, and that'll keep them from tracking what it is you're doing. There are a lot of options we could have. Ad blockers have already slapped this industry hard. They're having to change how they do things because ad blockers have taken away the ability for websites to easily generate massive revenues with clickbait streams. VPNs may be the next thing that slap the internet and say, enough is enough, stop putting your hand in our pocket, you're not the federal government, you don't have a legal right to take what's ours. And maybe it's time we tell the federal government to stop that too, by the way. Uh, I don't know. I'd love to hear what you think. Use the comments down below. Let me know what you think on this or any topic you'd like to have discussed on a Gaming Espresso. You can email me, unclegamer@outlook.com, and give me your suggestions. Comment, like, dislike, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me know what you think of these videos. Let me know if you want more, if you want less. Feedback lets me know if this is something I should continue doing. So, on that note, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for taking the time for joining me for this week's Gaming Espresso. We'll probably get another one earlier in the week. We might start going to 2 a week for these. In the meantime, go find some friends and have some fun. And until your privacy is restricted, browse the internet and enjoy yourself. And I will see you next time, my friends. Game on! And let's see. It's broke. They broke my